Hello, what's up? Welcome to my channel. This is like the billionth time I've tried to make this video. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time and make a video about it. It's just really difficult in a way because I feel so passionate about it, and because my mind can kind of babble and go in so many different directions because it's something that I could talk about forever. But, you know, as you can see from the title of this video, I want to talk about policing in America and my views on it. I just feel, especially like as a white girl, that I need to use my privilege and speak up, and I try to do this as much as possible. I am speaking to any person watching this, not just white, but I challenge you to also, you know, have this conversation with people you know. And yeah, I just want to start by saying, because I just, you know, I want people to watch this, and I want to make sure that, you know, I get this off, you know, this point made first off, is that I never want anything bad to happen to cops. So anybody that, you know, I obviously support Black Lives Matter. I obviously, like, you know, feel a certain way towards cops as a whole. That doesn't mean that I want anything bad to happen to cops. Of course, I am 100%, everything I stand for is against unwarranted suffering and trauma towards anyone. I mean, I'm an empath, and any sort of suffering and trauma, no matter if it is something that we can control or we can't control, I mean, I just feel it. It really affects me, and I just, yeah, I'm just so, of course, like, anytime, you know, if there's something that's happened to a cop, like, they're killed in line of duty or something like that, like, you know, for no reason, like, of course, like, my heart breaks. Like, they have a family around them, they have people who love them and support them. Like, I understand that, like, and I know that's why this is a really, really hard thing to talk about. And it's a very sensitive subject. I feel that it's almost as sensitive as talking about religion, money, politics. Yeah, it's just a very sensitive topic because, you know, there are hundreds of thousands of cops in this country, and obviously there are hundreds of thousands of people around those people that love them. So, you know, it's a very sensitive thing. But that being said, of course, I don't want anything bad to happen, and I don't, you know, condone any sort of just like unwarranted disrespect for no reason towards anyone. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to call out what we see and call out shit that is really fucked up and corrupt. And policing in America is so fucked up. Let's just start from the history. The same police system that we have now is the same police system that was started in order to police slaves. It's the same exact system. It's the same exact symbol. Like, if you look at the old symbol, it's basically the same exact thing that's like the badges that, you know, they use now. And it was, you know, the law enforcement was started to police slaves to make sure that they weren't leaving and running away from their masters, stealing from them, forming revolts, you know, to revolt against everything, whatever it may be. That's why they were started. So, I mean, how can you be different? Like, how can a tree be different if its roots are coming from toxic, like, you know, poisonous roots? If your roots are poisonous, the tree's going to be poisonous, and everything that comes out of it is. And the thing is that it's not like it just stopped there, that's how policing in America started, and it's still to this day is to protect white supremacy. How can you deny it? It's in your face. Just because there are black cops and cops that are of color doesn't mean shit either. It is insane. So throughout, you know, that's how the history started. And then as we go forward, there has been so many instances throughout centuries of like terrorism, murders, massacres, violence at the hands of police. These are people that are hired with our tax dollars to to what? For law and order, to serve and protect. If you are like, so people who are being paid by our tax dollars to serve and protect have caused, like, have killed people, have bombed people. And I'm not even talking about stuff from like a really long time ago. Of course, you know, we can talk about the Black Wall Street situation. That is coming up in 100 years. In June will be 100 years since the massacre. That was something that the police were involved in. The police were involved in that. And all that was happening was that Black people were thriving. Black people made their own community and had their own businesses and were finally owning their own homes and were thriving. And it got massacred and murdered and destroyed. Fred Hampton in the 60s, like, you know, probably the most prominent Black Panther member, murdered in his apartment in a raid in the middle of the night. Other people were also murdered that night. Some of the Black Panthers that were there were actually like arrested and were convicted for assaulting the police officers but they didn't do anything. They lied on those reports. They lied. So I mean, that was in the 60s. 1985, Philadelphia. A bomb was dropped on a house in Philadelphia that was the center of a Black liberation movement. 11 people were killed, 65 homes were destroyed, hundreds of people were injured and left homeless. That was at the hands of police. The police were involved in that. 1985. I was born in 1984. Okay? Now, we know that the past 10 years has been insane with how much we're actually seeing, with how many like videos that we can actually watch someone getting murdered, like live. But it has been here forever. There's a reason why there are billions of songs about police brutality from white and Black artists. There's movies about it. It's been around. It's something that is here, but it's crazy because we put police still to this day up on this pedestal in this country. That's why it's even so scary to even have a conversation about it, because people are so defensive and put them on such a pedestal. It's like, how dare you? It's like we're almost like talking negatively about God or something. And that's just ridiculous. And that is why police culture is so scary and fucked up. There is a reason why people say that the first gangs in America are the police. These people that are getting murdered and people get murdered by them are people who speak up against the fucked up shit they've done. There has just been too much. We have seen too much. We know too much. I am so sick of seeing, like, I see video after video. I read story after story. It's endless. And it's been going on this way for centuries. We're just finally, now we have the technology to see it and to spread it in 2 seconds. And now we have an army of people out here who are willing to police the police. And the thing is that, like, if you are a good cop, like, or, you know, if you have family members that you truly... I mean, it's hard to say because, you know, when you have, like, when the orchard's bad, all the apples are bad, or whatever that saying is, right? People are saying it's a bad apple. No, well, like, if the whole roots are bad, then the whole orchard's bad, right? I think that there's obviously a lot of cops and a lot of people who just, like, you know, they aren't even aware of this stuff. I mean, a lot of people in general aren't aware of a lot of the messed up history in this country because we were never taught it. We were in school. We were never taught it. We have been blinded and brainwashed for a long time about the real history of this country. But I just think it's like really crazy how much of a pedestal we put police on. I mean, they should be on that pedestal if it was actually true. I mean, I'm not saying that, of course, there's a lot of situations that I know that cops, I'm sure, I can't imagine sometimes the situations they come across and the situations they deal with, the things they have to deal with. Obviously, there's a lot of cops that are murdered in the line of duty. But again, like, all of that comes to the root with, too, like, crime. Like, why is crime here in the first place? Like, our society's answer when there's more crime is just to add more police And the problem is the crime is a root. Like, if you have a fire in your house, that every single week you have a fire in the same spot, and every single week you have the fire department come to put it out, are you going to get to the root of what's causing the fire? Or are you just going to keep putting the fire out? No, you need to get to the root of it. What is the root of the fire? So there's a reason in general why, crime happens. And a lot of it is because people are struggling and suffering. But anyways, what's crazy is how many criminals are actually in uniform. And this is what is scary. And the thing is that, again, like, so what I was going to say is, if you are a cop that is a good cop, like, then, be a part of the movement, be a part of the change, because that we have to change. This system is not working for us anymore. It is not working. It doesn't make sense to send police, if it's like, we keep hearing so many stories about people having a mental health crisis and the cops being called and them being killed. Like, oh God, it makes me sick. But, we shouldn't be having the police be the answer for everything. Why are we having people who have less training than people who get, licensed to be a manicurist? Why are we having them have so much authority and power? And why do they have guns? And why are we sending them to deal with situations that they are not trained to deal with? You can't be a psychiatrist in this country without having a PhD. You have, you have to be a doctor. You have to just go to school for fucking 8-10 years to be a lawyer in this country. To even be able to practice law, you have to go to school for 8 or 10 years. But to be able to enforce it, you only need 6 months, not even a lot of times. And you get a gun and you get the law and everything on your side. It's just, it's just really crazy. I just think that it's really sad, because there are times too where there are cops that have spoken up and they've actually gotten persecuted, lost their jobs, or had crazy shit happen to them. I had, I know so many stories. There was a guy in my, teacher in my high school. He was a substitute teacher and he was also a cop, and he ended up writing a story, for the newspaper in my town after, because he ended up leaving the force because his experience, even in my town, his experience in the force was so messed up. And part of it was because when he wanted to speak up and not do things that they wanted him to do, fucked up shit, I'm not even gonna get into it, but and they harassed him. They would call him because he was he dressed nice and they cared about how he looked, they called him the F word, really messed up shit. And he wrote an article about this, and he, I think, was getting even terrorized for a while after that for writing that article. We can't have a system like this. And what's crazy is just how many people aren't even seeing it as this. How can we not talk about, how can we not have a conversation about it? How can you expect people to not feel a certain way? Just on a basic level, just on my everyday to day, I have so many times where I'm just so fucking annoyed when I see cops. I'm sick of seeing them just sitting around all the time. They're always just sitting around, wasting tax dollars, not doing shit, talking to each other, whatever. I see them on their phones all the time. See them driving around on their phones constantly. 9 times out of 10 on my street, because I live on a main road, when there's a car that I can hear flying up the street, going way too fast, because I'm across the street from a church, a school. There's tons of people walking around with with their dogs and their kids, and I hear people flying up the street all the time. And 9 times out of 10, it's the cops, because I live close to the police department. It boggles my mind, yet we still put them on this pedestal. How do you expect people to respect you when you are, you're about to give someone a ticket and could potentially ruin someone's life, because even one little ticket can snowball into a way bigger situation. I know this from experience. I had a ticket from parking for snow in Leona, New Jersey, that turned into a whole thing. I got almost arrested and handcuffed. Well, I did get handcuffed on the turnpike, but they let me go. Probably because of my skin tone. It sucks. I'm sorry. But Anyways, so because they saw that it was just for a parking ticket, but I mean, that could have spiraled into someone being killed. And that's, if I was anybody different, or if it was a different situation, like, this is what people are getting killed for, is for being pulled over for a routine traffic stop. So every little thing matters. And the thing is you're driving around here doing the same shit that you're gonna give someone a ticket for. The other day, oh my God, I was driving on a road here that's 35 miles an hour. It's 2 lanes on both sides. There was a car on my ass so close to me, I couldn't even see their lights right behind me. And I was getting so, like, I was going already over the speed limit. The speed limit is 35, and I was probably going 45, because it's a road that does feel like you can go a little faster, but there's always cops around. So it's honestly stupid, because you're just going to get pulled over to go faster. Also, there's lights that you come up to in 2 seconds. So again, what's the point? But this car behind me flew around me into oncoming traffic. When I saw that they had a police, like the license plate with the police badge thing on it, the sheriff, the blue shield thing, and then they had the Fraternal Order of Police license plate frame, I was like, oh shit, are they seriously a fucking cop? I started to follow them, and I'm no joking, because I was following them, and I think that they, like, on purpose were speeding up. They were going 90 miles an hour. 90, I'm not even kidding, 90 miles an hour. And I knew I was going to catch up right next to them at a light. And I did. 90 miles an hour in a 35. I catch up to him next to a light. I put down my window. He's looking at me because he knew I was going to say something. And I seriously, I yelled at him. I was yelling at him. I said, are you a fucking cop? I was like, are you seriously a motherfucking cop? And you seriously were just going 90 miles an hour? Like, you fucking could have killed someone? And you're seriously a motherfucking cop? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I yelled at him. I was like, this is why people don't fucking respect your asses, because of shit like this. And I see this shit all the time. Pay attention to the cops in your area. How do they drive? Pay attention to the people who have the shields on their cars. Sometimes I see people and their whole fucking windshield is taken up with those little emblems, the police fraternal order things, probably because they know they're going to get away with whatever they want, because if you're friends with the gang, you get away with whatever you want. But seriously, pay attention to them. Are they the ones that are driving crazy and reckless 9 times out of 10? This is why people don't respect police. This is why we have a problem. And then we can't even talk about it. They're still treated like they are gods. And there are a lot of amazing police. I'm not saying that I don't see stories. Like, I see stories, and if I see a story, I'll share it, of, like, hero stories of cops. And I know that there are a lot of cops that get into it for the right reasons. So then, please, we need to stand up together, and you need to be on the right side of history here, because enough is enough. I am so sick of these stories, story after story. It's one thing, of course, there's stories about, like, the Karens every 2 seconds calling cops on people, or the girl thinking that kid took her iPhone, she's fucking crazy. Like, those are just regular people. But cops, they're people that are employed they're here to serve and protect us. And even me as a white girl, I'm scared of cops. Like, I do. Like, they make me very uncomfortable. I feel very uncomfortable. If there's a lot of cops around, I feel very uncomfortable. Even when I see a cop, I feel uncomfortable. If I get pulled over, I felt uncomfortable. Because you just never know, because again, they can do whatever they want because they write the report, and then everybody's gonna be on their side because that's how our society is. And it is just so messed up. Law, like, if you break the law, no matter who you are, you should be treated just like anybody else. If you are an officer and you have been sworn in to be a police officer in this country, even if you're off duty, I mean, of course, if you have a car that no one knows, but if you have a car that you have police shit all over, that you're a fraternal order of police, get it together. You should not be, like, first of all, because you could kill someone, and the whole reason we have traffic laws, right, is I thought they were for safety. Clearly, the traffic laws are just for the towns to make money, but like, you should be you should be an example. You should be a role model, so that the pedestal that society has put you on would actually be true. You should be the ultimate citizen. And what's crazy is that, do you know how much money, like, I mean, there's so many case after case of misconduct and so many things that happen. Do you know how much money is given away, even just from the, like, for example, let's talk about the NYPD. The NYPD in itself is literally like its own CIA. They have their own intelligence. They're basically the original gangs of the U.S. They recently just had the person that they had who was in charge of like the racial diversity department, like basically who's supposed to be in charge of, you know, making sure that racist shit isn't happening. They just found out he's a white supremacist. And there was lots of people at the Capitol riots that also, I mean, throughout the country that were law enforcement, of course. Yeah, like, so the NYPD, I mean, God, I lost my train of thought about this. The NYPD. Anyways, they give away so much money. I was just reading the other day, like, so remember last year during the Black Lives Matter protest, there was, I remember one situation where this, like, a cop got in trouble, and, you know, because it had been filmed, because he just, like, pushed a guy and punched him for no reason to get out of the way. They were, like, on a corner in the city, and come to find out, when they looked at his record, he had, like, the city had already settled, like, it was probably like millions of dollars they had already settled and paid for this one officer's amount of misconduct things that he had against him. Now, this is where we get to the conversation where we talk about defunding. A lot of people are so scared of this word defund. Defund doesn't mean, I mean, it doesn't mean that people want people just be able to, like, run around killing each other, stealing, have it be fucking chaos and no law and order. No. Defunding is, we've been defunding education for decades. No one cares about that. No one gives a shit about the fact that pretty much every single teacher has to buy tons of stuff to make their classroom even look like enjoyable and fun for a kid to want to learn in. No one talks about that defunding. No, defunding just means we need to reallocate funds into other areas. If you are a cop that is someone who doesn't have shit against your record and you are a good cop, and I mean, I think even in my town of Kearney, New Jersey, there are a lot of good cops. I mean, I'm sure that have been on the force for a long time, and you can get a sense from them that they're, you know, you get the energy that they're good people. Be on the side of this. Be in part of the new system. It's about defunding to put into other areas. We don't need police to go out to a situation when it's a mental health crisis. We don't need police to be the answer for every single situation that happens. We don't need to call the police for every single, like, if there's a noise, if your neighbor's, like, for stupid shit. Like, no. We need to be putting that money back into the communities. Defunding means exactly what I was talking about earlier about how I'm sick of seeing the cops just, like, sitting around. I mean, not only do we sitting around all the time, but also how much do you see cops, like, just being the people who deal with the traffic violations? We recently had our snow, like, you know, that big storm we had a couple weeks ago here in Jersey, and I'm sure, like, most of the Northeast got it. Oh my God, they had the cops for days. Just all they did was go up and down the streets, doing their sirens, telling people to move so that they could move snow for hours. Like, it took them 5 hours on my street, 5 hours of them going up and down the street, sounding alarms, telling people to move for street cleaning. Just doing that. Cops, literally police, you know, getting these huge, I'm not saying huge, but they're getting big salaries. Cops make decent money. You know, they make enough to definitely a very living wage. So yeah, just to do that, just to go up and down the street, just to sit here down on the river, just to sit down, and a lot of times you see them just shooting the shit with each other. I mean, it's just about, like, it makes sense. Like, we need to defund, because if cities and towns and the government is run almost like a business, and you have a budget for your town, and the majority of the budget is going to the police who are just sitting on the river doing nothing, that's why we say defund. The current police system is not working. We need, I mean, I don't believe that it's possible to, you know, let's be honest about where we are in this country. And we do obviously have a massive, I mean, there's a lot of cops, there's a lot of support for cops, and there's obviously a lot of people that are not going to be down for just, like, complete abolishment and starting over. But I think that what we need to be doing is what's started to happen, and we need to do it even like harder and more, is just really like, you know, in Austin, Texas, they defund some of the money that was taken away from the police budget was put towards buying hotels to make into homeless shelters, stuff like that. You know, we need to, like, a lot of the colleges and stuff, stop using, we need to stop having police at schools. Like, let's get to the root of that. Like, why do we have to have police at schools? What's the root of that? Again, back to the fire in your house. Stop putting out the fire. Figure out what the root of the fire is. Why do we need police in schools? Because we need to be putting money back into our communities, into education. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on about this. The last thing I want to talk about, or one thing I really want to talk about, which I haven't even touched upon, is to talk about Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, and that whole situation. And just to, because that like, I know there's a lot of people like me who, when I see Blue Lives Matter stuff everywhere, and every time I see it, it makes me want to vomit. Blue Lives Matter, first of all, blue, it's a uniform. You're not a blue person. You're not a blue life. It's not the same as a black person. That's their skin. They can't take off that. That's not a uniform. It's their skin tone. They carry it everywhere they go. Okay? So Blue Lives Matter, the only reason that term was even coined for them was because they stole it from Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter started after Trayvon Martin. You know, yes, that was not a police that killed Trayvon Martin, but he was acquitted and nothing happened to him. And Black Lives Matter started after that, and especially after Michael Brown, when he was killed by police, and he had nothing in his hands. He was walking away from the police and he was killed. That's when Black Lives Matter started. It's because until you treat black lives like you would a white life, Black Lives Matter. If Trayvon Martin was a white kid, had been shot and killed just walking in his neighborhood wearing a hoodie, carrying an iced tea or whatever, you don't think justice would have been served? Do you think if that was a white kid, Michael Brown in Ferguson, that they would have killed him? I mean, of course, I've seen stories of police brutality against white people, but it is so much more rare. You can't tell me it's not 10 times more rare. And I don't, you know, like, I know a lot of people will say, well, that's because black people, like, if they just, or like, not black people, but if people were just doing what they were supposed to be doing and not like criminals, and like, you know, in some of these situations, obviously, like, they were getting, like, they had stolen or whatever, but a lot of things they weren't. A lot of times a lot of these situations, they were completely innocent. But anyways, like, who fucking cares? Like, I mean, that's a whole nother topic of the reason why, like, if people, again, are stealing, struggling, like, doing a crime, there usually is a root of it. And the systematic racism in this country is a big root for a lot of shit in this country, a lot of crime in this country. And, like, it's just insane. So anyways, so Black Lives Matter, you know, came out after that, and Blue Lives Matter was basically the biggest slap in the face ever towards Black Lives Matter movement. We know Blue Lives Matter. Who doesn't think a cop lives matter? If you kill a cop, you are done. It's not the same as killing a normal person. If you kill a cop, justice will be served. And it should be served. I'm not saying it shouldn't be served, but it will be. So that's why, like, you may not see sometimes, like, people are like, why is everybody not outraged about when this happened? Like, we are outraged, but justice is going to be served. They caught the guy. He's already in jail. It's not the same as a cop who's still being paid, or who's on, like, basically like a paid vacation while the trial's going on, who then can go back on the force, or they can just go be a cop in another town and terrorize other people. I mean, it's like a lot of these stories, like, they have so much on their records. A lot of these murders that have happened the past 10 years, every single one of those cops, like, a lot of them have, like, so much on their record in different towns where they got, even some of them got fired from another town and they were able to go to a totally different place and become a cop. Like, it's just insanity. So Blue Lives Matter is the biggest slap in the face. It makes me want to vomit. And what's crazy, and this is what just shows you how messed up and where we are in a place in this country, is that Blue Lives Matter stuff is all over police departments. It's all over their police cars, bumper stickers. I've seen the police departments painted with the flags everywhere. And that was literally such a slap in the face. Like, Black Lives Matter is just saying that until you treat Black lives like they matter, all lives don't matter, because that's not what's happening. That is not what has happened. So Blue Lives Matter is the biggest slap in the face, and it really, I hate fucking seeing that shit. I'm so sick of it. And it's just crazy because the most recent things that have happened, like in January with the Capitol riots, it kind of just feels like the Blue Lives Matter people are a fucking joke. The people who actually have said more about the cops that lost their lives that day, and and people who, like, there was a cop that committed suicide after, which, by the way, suicide is a huge issue within the police force and within law enforcement. Why do you think that is, suicide? Again, it's the same toxic environment. They're in an environment that they feel that they are almost like trapped. It's like a gang. Seriously. We have got to have serious conversations everywhere about this, and really be honest with ourselves and with ourselves and with the people that in our lives. You know, I know that there's a lot of amazing cops out there, but it's just crazy because I'm sure that there's so many things that have happened that no one will know about. There are so many cops that I'm sure have amazing families, and everybody thinks they're amazing in their community, but there probably has, who knows? Again, if you're able to falsify a report, if you're somewhere and no one's around, and again, you're the law enforcement, you're who's in charge, who knows what you've done that people don't know about? I just, I can't help but, there's just so much stuff that we've seen that I can only imagine what we don't see and what we don't know. And it's terrifying. It's really, really scary. And again, I just feel like the only way that we can move forward is for everybody to have this conversation. We need to continue to be looking at every single police department on a local, a state, a federal level. We need to be going through their rosters. If people have any sort of misconduct on their record, they should be dismissed. Which, again, this is what's crazy, is that this probably won't happen. But I just feel like you can't be a good cop unless you're calling out the bad cops. Like, you can't say you're a good cop unless you're calling out fucked up shit. So until that is happening, it's really hard to even, again, I understand why people say all cops are bad, even though I don't have that mentality, because I just don't think that that's constructive, because we need to speak to cops. And if we're speaking to cops and trying to change law enforcement, how can we speak to them? They're not going to listen to us if we're just saying every single one of you is fucked up. No, but you have to recognize that your job and the office that you serve and the history of what you do, you need to know all that. And really, if you still believe in what you do, you need to be a part of this, the other side of the movement, of the change, of new trainings, of defunding to put towards school. It's only going to help you too. You understand? This is the thing, is that if you are someone who has a family member who's a cop and people that you love in your life, being able to take money and put it back into our communities to help prevent crime as a whole is only going to also help your cop family member, because tons of cops do get killed unnecessarily. So again, let's get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is not more police. The root of the problem is, let's get to the reason why people are struggling, that they would even want to commit a crime. When it comes to majority of crimes like stealing and things like that, or anything that has to do with money or selling cigarettes, Eric Garner, the reason he was killed, any of those reasons, I just lost my train of thought of that. But anything, any of those reasons are not serious, or they're oh my God, I totally lost my train of thought with that. Well, anyways, I just feel really strong about this. I just feel that we really are in a really crazy place, and it's really, really scary. And Yeah, okay, now I remember what I was going back to. See, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a stoner. I know, I just keep it I'll keep it real. I'm a smoker, but not a cigarette smoker. So my brain sometimes, back on track. So yeah, like, oh God, I lost it again. I just lost it again. All right, well, my soda brain just went, oh my God. Yeah, so anyways, if the only way we're going to move forward is to be able to have this conversation, to be able to like really put forth these efforts into our communities. And it's not about just fuck the police. It's about how can we become as a whole a better union? How can we as a whole actually have the Pledge of Allegiance, which we were forced to say every single day of our lives, which is really kind of messed up if you think about it. We said this Pledge of Allegiance that the whole time wasn't even true and hasn't been true. Let's work towards that. And we need the police involved in that. We need all of you and police culture involved in it. But we have to really deal with it. Like, the only way we're going to get through it, or like the other side of it, is through it. And we have to deal and have these uncomfortable conversations and sit with this stuff that I know we may not want to sit with, because we think that these people in our lives are, you know, heroes. And I'm not saying that some of them aren't, but again, the system is corrupt and there's just no way around it. I don't know how you cannot see it. And yeah, so I know I really wish I'd remember that last thing I was going to say, but I'm sure that I'll remember and I can do another video someday about it. Let me know if you have any questions. I don't know, like, I'm sure there was even things that I even didn't even say, because like I said, like, I could go on and on about this. I feel really passionate about it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, I do feel very hopeful. You know, I have a hopeful spirit and I do feel positive and hopeful for the future. I feel that the last year especially has brought things to a whole other level of awareness, and that things that have been pushed under the rug forever and ever and ever are finally being brought to the surface. And that's the only way that we can get to the other side of it, is to actually deal with it. So I do feel positive. I'm trying to stay hopeful. I hope you all are too, but this is definitely like a serious issue, and it's something that we really need to talk about and really come to a reality about. The people who aren't really sitting with this reality, they really need to. And thank you so much for watching. Take care.